Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Popo here, bring guys a new video, and today we're going to be recapping the European International Championships. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, and today we're going to be talking about the European International Championships. What a fantastic event. Of course, they streamed every single round, so if you haven't went and seen those yet, make sure you go watch it. It is really, really good. It's always good watching it the day after because you can skip all of the fluff stuff that's in between and you can just go watch the matches themselves. But it was amazing, and there was some really good games, and there were some really, really cool teams. The first thing I want to get into here is the usage stats. So let's talk about day one, right? On day one, we see Incineroar, just as I had predicted, being the #1 pick. It was on the most teams, 43% with Fluttermane at 42, Raging Bolt 39, Landorus Incarnate 38. We had the Ogerpon Wellspring at 36, Rillaboom at 32, Urshifu Rapid Strike at 30. So increasing, we keep seeing this thing be like larging the gap versus Single Strike, which just barely made this top 12 list. Chien-Pao at 25. We have Tornadus Incarnate over at 21. Ogerpon Hearthflame at 20. So Ogerpon's altogether 56 from those two. We had Single Strike Urshifu at 19, and Farigiraf rounding out the top 12 being at 16%. So a pretty interesting day one set. Nothing really out of the ordinary, but looking at day two here, we do see Incineroar increasing the 51%, and if you notice, number 2 is not Fluttermane. It's Raging Bolt up to 47 from that 39. Rapid Strike 44, really showing how dominant it can be again. We have Chien-Pao 37, pairing really well with those Urshifus. We have Landorus Incarnate up to 35.6, Rillaboom up to 33%, so only a percent for him. Actually, Incarnate is actually down 3%. And the biggest drop of them all, down 10% into 7th place, which is the lowest it has ever been. We did see it go to 6th one time, but 32% Fluttermanes. Fluttermanes were not showing out. We had a Mungus 29.9, which was a big increase from 16%, so almost doubling it. Hearthflame taking that spot, overtaking the Wellspring mask. I don't think we've ever seen this before either. I think once. I think it was really popular in one tournament, and then Wellspring kind of took over after that. We see Goldango, who had some really good showings in the top cut, and then Urshifu Single Strike rounding out that top 12 of day 2. So we had some really, really cool teams and some really cool matchups, but first we're going to look at the win rates and stuff like we always do. We can see a lot of these top Pokemon sub 50%. It's still close enough to 50% to be considered decent, but you can see that they are continuing to drop off. People are more ready and prepared for these Pokemon. Incineroar dropping under 50%, though I don't think the usage of that's going to drop. Fluttermane, however, continuing to drop in usage. We could see this Pokemon drop below Raging Bolt. A 48%, even though it was only the second most brought Pokemon and only at 42% compared to what has been before in the 60s, it is getting less and less usage and less and less wins. And wins are important, of course, and we can see that with the Urshifu Rapid Strike, right? 30% of teams, it increases onto day 2, and it has over 50% win. Same with the Chien-Pao. We did see Chien-Pao for a little while drop below that 50%, and its usage had significantly dropped. But with the rising of Raging Bolt, it has gotten a lot better. Even when Raging Bolt does something like tear into that fairy, Chien-Pao is still really, really good against it. So I think we'll continue to see Chien-Pao rise, or at least have a really good win percentage. Tornadus Incarnate still being under 50% consistently. It has not really changed too much. Ogerpon Hearthflame having 2% win percentage over, actually 3% win percentage over Wellspring in this tournament. Really shows the strength of having a fire type that can also hit with grass into those water types. Also with Gouging Fire being around, this is a really good Pokemon to be able to use that that Howl onto, so you can get a really good damage output from it. Even with Intimidate sitting around, it still can do a lot. And we did see in the finals that somebody was running Stomping Tantrum, so you do have a way to deal with Incineroar if you really, really want to. Single Strike is dropping down in usage, though the win percentage is still really good at 50%. That's not bad. We see Farigiraf. Everybody's been able to counter Farigiraf, especially with these Amoonguss rising. 54% win percentage by the Amoonguss, dropping down the Farigiraf because, you know, you could just Spore Farigiraf. So that way the Farigiraf's not really able to do too much. So that's really a strong counter going to the Farigiraf. We'll see probably a Amoonguss rise into this, you know, this top 8 around here position going into the next event next week, which is Orlando. We see Gouging Fire, 52%. Not too bad. We see Blood Moon Ursaluna not doing great, 49%, but just not getting a good placement. 37th was its top placement, so really dropping down from the top Pokemon. Definitely was the worst. Tornadus and Farigiraf had pretty bad showings too, but 37th is just not good enough. We have Goldango, who did get a third, 56% win percentage, so this Pokemon will probably see a rise. We see Dragonite coming back into here. If you guys remember a few regionals ago, we actually saw Dragonite go almost into like 42% or something like that win percentage. So Dragonite coming back up, but we're not seeing the regular Dragonites anymore, right? We're seeing some variations of Dragonite. It's not just let's click extreme speed and see what happens. So it'll be interesting to see if we continue to see the scale shots and stuff like that. We'll talk about that when we get into the matches I have prepared for you. Next, we have Iron Hands, 48 win percentage, so dropping down a little bit. This thing was winning quite a few events, doing really well. It did drop down. And Didi, about that 50%, hasn't really changed. Kingambit doing okay. Tinglu doing really well, but still not showing up. Torkoal, who had really good win percentages in the past, is dropping down. Still not getting the usage I think it deserves. Dondozo, 56.1, getting 7th place, of course, with that Tinglu team. That is a huge result for Dondozo. We see Entei exactly 50%, not doing too great. Ursaluna had a 52, but it also won. So, like, there were players doing really well with it, and then there was players doing really bad with it. I think it's one of those Pokemon, if you don't play well with it, you're going to lose almost every game. If you don't position it well, or you just make easy calls for your opponent, it's just not going to do very well for you. Chi-Yu dropping down. I thought Chi-Yu would be a lot better going into this event. This Pokemon is really, really strong. Roaring Moon, 56%. This Pokemon has consistently been putting up good results, but still nobody is using it. And 56% might make people start looking at it. I think it could fit into a couple of different teams. I was using it for quite a while in Fast Bear for my Trick Room user. I mean, my Tailwind user, and it was really, really good. So I think people should look at it more. Glamora dropping down, of course. 63rd finish. It's not really being used with that Dondozo team anymore. It's kind of got sidelined for that Tinglu and stuff. Hisui and Arcanine are still hanging around. You know, he's still hanging around. He's being him. Cornerstone, also 4%. So we're seeing 60% of teams having one of the Ogre Pawns. I don't think there was really a presence for the grass one, but not good win. But here we go. This is the Pokemon I wanted to get down here to, and that is Porygon 2. This thing was an absolute menace this weekend. Only on 4.5% of teams, 56 win percentage, and of course it did get first place. It had a lot of top cut finishes. This Pokemon is for real. A lot of people doubted it, saying that it was kind of a one-trick pony, but I really do think that this Pokemon is for real, and people need to start respecting it, and you need to have something, you know, to deal with it. And Fake Out is a good way to start on that, or having Taunt, like we saw a lot of taunts this weekend into Porygon. So yeah, and we also saw a lot of Okidogi, who also finished really well, 6th position. That might be his best finish ever. 52% win percentage isn't the greatest in the world, but the ones who were doing well with it were doing very, very well. And we saw the resurgence of Cresselia as well, only finishing 11th, but really putting up great results and fitting into specific spots where Farigiraf maybe wouldn't have been the right call because it's not bulky enough. So Cresselia really, really, really good this weekend. Man, Corviknight didn't have a great weekend, though a couple of teams did really well with it. Como really dropping down, Tyranitar dropping down. Volcarona, people were hyped on Volcarona, but I guess it really didn't put up those results. We see Baxcalibur doing amazing. There was only 16 usage, and one of the players did really well, getting top 16. That same top 16 team had a couple of these boys in it too, and you could see Galler Zapdos 45%, not very good. So yeah, we'll get into the teams in a minute, but I want to talk about a couple of the games that we had this weekend because we had so many great players. I picked out quite a few because it is a special event, and I really like that they show from round one. I wish they could do that on all the events. Unfortunately, they can, I guess, with the way the contracts work or whatever. I don't know exactly how it works, but it would be great because there's such good stuff in those first 2 rounds. Never mind the third, fourth. We get to see those right away. But yeah, let's get right into round 1. We have Gabriel Agati versus Francesco Rossini, and I'm gonna just tell you guys if I pronounce any of you guys' names wrong, I do apologize. There are a lot of hard names. And Gabriel had Incin, Pow, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Rillaboom, Raging Bolt, and Goldango. Really good team. Francesco had Torkoal, the only Torkoal that we saw this weekend. Ogerpon, Hearthflame, Incin, Cresselia, Fluttermane, and Ursaluna. That regular Ursaluna, not the Blood Moon. We did not really see Blood Moon. I don't think Blood Moon was on stream at all. It didn't really do well. But yeah, game 1 was dominated by Gabriel Agati, who was able to just pivot and control while he was just doing incremental damage to Francesco's Pokemon, just gaining that advantage without taking too much damage himself. In game 2, though, it was a very back and forth game in which Francesco was able to actually output more damage in that kind of same situation to where it came down to the wire, but Francesco was really able to take it. And game 3 started off pretty balanced, just like the second game was the whole way through. But then Gabriel took advantage at some point and just kind of steamrolled the rest of the game and able to take the victory in that one. So going to the 1-0 of that first round. No crazy teams quite yet, but then we fast forward a little bit into round number 3, where we see Flavio Del Pido. I don't know if I said that right. I probably didn't. And Adam Sherflowy. I don't know how to say his last name either. I apologize. But Flavio had Baxcalibur already. This team is looking a little spicy. Rillaboom, Incineroar, Heatran, which isn't super common, though it was more common at this event. Gastrodon and Pheasantipity. And as somebody who used Pheasantipity, it is a hard Pokemon to use. Adam had Rillaboom and Incin. No, Landorus I put Incin I. Raging Bolt, Incin, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, and Ogerpon, Hearthflame. And yeah, this was definitely the most interesting team that they showed this weekend. Actually, Flavio actually finished pretty well with this team, making day 2. And yeah, it wasn't a great game, but Flavio's team is really interesting in the way that it works. It just wants to control the board, get poisons out there, try to pivot, and just get advantageous positions so that way they can take advantage of that poison while just, being able to do well-timed protects and just have their Pokemon live. So great win for Adam, but loved seeing Flavio's team. So credit to Flavio for bringing such a unique team and being able to do so well this weekend. Next one I want to talk about is Renzo versus Len. Now, Renzo, I don't think we've seen Renzo on stream since they had won Players Cup. So I think this is kind of the first result in a while that Renzo, I could be completely wrong on that, but Renzo was running the Rillaboom, Ogerpon, Wellspring, the Landorus Eye, Okidogi, Gouging Fire, and Chien-Pao. Okidogi at this point looked like it was going to be like a unique Pokemon, but going forward, we find out that it is a pretty common Pokemon into this tournament. And pairing it with that Gouging Fire is a really cool tech. Len, of course, using the same team essentially since, I believe, Regulation A, right? Lycanroc, Corviknight, Dragonite, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, and Garchomp. Though this Dragonite is a bit different. It does have that scale shots, and it does have that the dice on it. So it's going to be able to hit 4 times, get the speed boost. I think this team could actually benefit from having Gouging Fire on it, maybe over something like that Lycanroc. I get why you want to use the Lycanroc. It's really cool. But if you're able to put attack boost on all these Pokemon, because they are all physical attackers except for Amoonguss, I think you could take advantage of that. But yeah, the Corviknight's so bulky, it's able to get Tailwind up, but Okidoki just starts taking names and just destroying everything. And on the last turn of game number 3, we see Len not protect with his leftovers Garchomp, making it die to the breaking swipe. And it's possible it could have lived if he did go for a protect. Definitely would have lived if he got 2 protects, so maybe that was the play to go for. But yeah, it was a great set and really fun to watch, especially Len. The way that Len can use that team is absolutely insane, and I just really love watching Len play with it, because it's crazy that he's running those Pokemon in regulation whatever we're in. I wonder he's going to bring in G. He's probably just going to bring the same team and, you know, just add Calyrex Shadow to it or something. But yeah, so that game was fantastic. Round number 9, we see Wolf Glick versus Sebastian Ernst. And this is a win and in, so whoever wins this is going to go to day 2. Wolf has the Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Incineroar, Flutterbane, Amoonguss, Landorus Eye, and Tornado. So very standard stuff. We got the Rain Dance on the Torn and stuff to help the Urshifu and the Landorus. And it's just a really standard team. Like Wolf had said, I am using standard stuff. I'm sick of nerfing myself, so respect. Sebastian has Whimsicott, Farigiraf, Glamora, Chi-Yu, Fluttermane, and Terrakion. So this is beat up Terrakion stuff. Looking at this, I was like, I don't know how Wolf can beat that combo, the Terrakion beat up stuff, because he did not have a Follow Me user. So, and I think this is Wolf Glick's first appearance since he won the regional. So we don't know what to expect from him because he hasn't played in this format yet. Tailwind ended up being a huge part of this matchup in all 3 of the games. We see them trying to match each other's Tailwinds, or they're trying to stagger the Tailwinds in order for them to win. In game 1, we see that Wolf was able to kind of squeak out a victory using, you know, some unconventional tactics and just not even setting up the Tailwind. And then in game 2, we see Sebastian's Farigiraf actually being huge. It never left the board. This thing was an absolute offensive menace. It really controlled how the game pace was played. And after finding out the Farigiraf was actually faster than the Choice Scarf Urshifu when they had Trick Room, when they had Tailwind, was huge for Wolf going into game number 3, because it told Wolf that he had to set up that Tailwind in order to deal with this. And in game 3, we see a hard-fought battle back and forth, but it really looked like Sebastian was going to take the victory until we see Amoonguss use Protect, and we see Sebastian go for the Trick Room, thinking that Overheat would be enough to take out the Amoonguss, and then he'd be able to take control with his ending Tailwind. And it just did not work out that way. And we see the Amoonguss take that Overheat into that Protect and then just be able to knock out the Chi-Yu with the Sludge Bomb, guaranteeing Wolf the victory in that one. So it was a great game. Wolf does advance to day 2, though just misses out on Top Cut. I think 12th or 13th place Wolf ended up getting because of tiebreakers. I want to make a separate video about tiebreakers and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm not a fan, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, great game. So we're going to go right into day number 2. I want to talk about the first game that happened on day 2, which is Tim Edwards, which, remember that name, versus Teemu Mäkinen. I think it's Mäkinen. They're both 8-1 after day 2, so they both had an amazing day yesterday. We got Tim with Raging Bolt, Rillaboom, Ogerpon Fire, Incineroar, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, and Fluttermane, so very standard stuff. But Teemu has Galarian Moltres, Grimmsnarl, Ogerpon Cornerstone, Bronzong, Okidogi, and Amoonguss. This team is crazy. I really like it. And actually, it's extremely similar to my friend Wheezy's team that he has been using. So credit to Wheezy for calling the meta right here. Game 1 started off really quickly with a Will-O-Wisp right onto that Okidogi, which really limited how much damage Teemu was doing. But when it looked grim for Teemu, he was able to claw it back and just came up short of winning the victory, maybe because of those damage rolls that it was able to do. But it was really, really close, where I thought it was just going to be a clean 4-0 after that, because it just really looked that way. But credit to Teemu for being able to battle back. In game 2, Teemu, once again, like in the first game, they gave up their Grimmsnarl in order to, and switch into Mungus in order to kind of negate what this Will-O-Wisp could do, which is perfectly fine. But then he brings in Cornerstone, so now he has Cornerstone next to a Mungus, and what he's able to do is go for the Terrestrialization on the Cornerstone and just start basically sweeping, except for the fact that Tim has Urshifu, Rapid Strike, and Flutter Mane with Icy Wind. So he's able to just really, really, really just put out the damage that he needs with those two Pokemon. Amoonguss was down to really low health after taking 2 Rapid Strikes, and Icy Wind was enough to pick it up, even though it did go for another Protect, and Rapid Strike, Surging Strike, was able to pick up the Cornerstone, and it was just down to the Okidogi, who was not able to take those 2. So Tim advances into to 9-1 in 2 games. So. And then we're going to fast forward. There was other fantastic games through this, but I didn't want to go through every single game. This would take 7 years. It's already going to take 7 years. But we're going to go right to top 4, and we're going to go Niles Dunlap versus Jorian Runjamakers. I apologize. This is the hardest name of the whole weekend, so I really do apologize. And this was an amazing game, and it just really showed how good of a player this player is that won this, and we'll talk about that. But these were 2 control teams. We have Niles with Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Porygon 2, Ursaluna, Amoonguss, Incineroar, and Flutter Mane. Joran has Roaring Moon, Porygon 2, Goldango, Lando Eye, Instant, and Amoonguss. So these are really strong teams that are going to be trying to pivot and get put into positions where they can, control the board itself and just really start putting out damage, trying to get out their respective sweepers. And in game 1, it was really looking that way, where they were both about to get out their sweepers, and it was going to come down to whichever one could do more damage to the other. But then we saw that Instant was actually faster than Joran's Goldango outside of Trick Room. So we see the knockoff go into the Goldango and actually knock off those choice specs, and the Make It Rain did not do enough to the Ursaluna to make it a 2-shot. So Ursaluna was able to survive that, and Niles was able to pick up game number 1, which could have gone either way if those speed stats were a little bit different. But game 2, Niles just really controlled the game, and this was really indicative of Niles this whole event. I feel like his team was just built to control these meta teams. This, of course, was not a meta team, so it was a little bit harder probably to navigate, but that game 2 really showed the adaptability that Niles had for these matchups and how strong of a player he really is. So great win there. And that brings us right into the finals. And I told you to remember Tim. We got Tim Edwards versus Niles Dunlap. And this game was... it was not close, but... but I do want to give credit to Tim, because this is a huge achievement, obviously. This is one of the 4 biggest events of the whole season. So this is huge. But... of course, Tim, we just talked about Raging Bolt, Rillaboom, Ogre Fire, Incineroar, Urshifu, Flutter Mane, Niles, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Porygon 2, Ursaluna, Amoonguss, Incineroar, and Flutter Mane. So a very meta team versus a very anti-meta team. We know the Flutter Mane does have the taunt over on Tim's side that's going to help him deal with the Porygon 2. But yeah, this is meta versus anti-meta, and Niles has the advantage going into this, doing to a lot of practice against this team, right? I mean... match advantage is huge, and it can't be understated when you talk about these kind of things. And yeah, it was just Niles controlling the whole entire game. It really seemed like it really seemed like Tim was really afraid to make a lot of calls, because if he missed one of these calls, the game was just over in a lot of the cases. But also, not making that call kind of ended the game right there as well. So there was a call where he could have double upped into a slot that was almost certainly going to be a switch into a Mungus, which would have got the knockout on the Mungus, which would have put Tim in a fantastic position. But instead of making that call, he did the obvious play, and it did not work out. The Mungus kind of got in for almost free and was able to start helping support the other Pokemon. But the biggest call of the whole weekend was Niles calling a Terra from the Ogerpon into Fire. So he went for his own Terra, which was into Ghost type, and Spored into that slot, which kind of just sealed up that win. And yeah, it was just a lot of Niles going, go ahead, make the call, because if you don't, you lose. And if you do, you might still lose. So this was just Niles' weekend. He was playing fantastic, like amazing Pokemon. Like it was going to be insanely hard to beat him no matter who you were, what team you were using, how many times you've been up on that stage. It just seemed like his event to win at a certain point, and especially in that game where he just had a dominating performance and was able to become the European International Champion of 2024, punching his ticket right to Honolulu, Hawaii, which we found out the dates for, which is August 16th through 18th. So we will be covering that as well. But yeah, Tim, amazing job. This is Tim's first big finish, first top cut. This is first year he's been competing, so credit to him. I actually, I was at an event that he went to that was hosted by Leaf. So I didn't get to play against him or whatever, but still, I was there. But yeah, great finish. But Niles, this control style that Niles is playing is amazing. It's very similar to a style I like to play, though I might play a little bit more aggressive than when he plays. So, but yeah, I mean, I could not have won any of these games. Like, insane plays by Niles. But yeah, let's get into a few of the nitpicky stuff. We actually see, I know you guys can't see it, but the number one combo actually is Incineroar Raging Bolt, which is a huge parting from what we usually see, which is Flutter Mane plus Incineroar. Or I said Ogerpon, I apologize. Incineroar plus Raging Bolt is number one. I think I was looking at this one and said it. But yeah, I mean, Incineroar, you know, so yeah, it's a far calling from what we've been seeing. It's a really good, you know, core. We see Assault Vest being number one still. Life Orb taking over Focus Sash and Booster Energy, coming out of nowhere, really. I think this was like down here somewhere. A lot of that is because of the Wellspring Mask has dropped. This thing was like, you know, 50, almost 60% before. So makes sense that dropped down, because obviously it's going to be 36.35. Somehow it's not, which doesn't really make any sense to me. Is somebody running Wellspring Mask on not Ogerpon? Okay. Sure. Can we click it? No, it doesn't do anything. I was going to say, does it show me what Pokemon are running this? But no. We see Rocky Helmet coming up, Leftovers, Choice Scarf, Choice Specs. I'm surprised Choice Scarf is higher than Choice Specs. Maybe because of that Urshifu really boosting that up. Choice Band really being down here. Clear Amulet's going to skyrocket starting Regulation G, so be ready for that. Terra types, we see Fairy, Fire, Ghost. Ghost actually coming up. Water was here before. Grass was, I think, over Steel, so we see a little bit of changing, but Fairy still being number one. Of course, because of that Flutter Mane and anything else that wants to use it. Now we got the Raging Bolt too. So Fake Out still being the number one move. Ivy, Cudgel, Close Combat actually increasing. I guess there's two really good Pokemon that use it. U-Turn, there's a lot of Choice Scarfs out there, so we're seeing that. For special attacks, Earth Power taking the first spot next to Sludge Bomb. This is mainly because the Amoonguss are now running Sludge Bomb, and Earth Power is being run also by Landorus Eye, so he's getting both of these. Fluttermane is dropping down, so the Dazzling Gleam, Moonblast. Some are not even running Shadow Ball now. We saw that in the finals on Tim's team. No Shadow Ball. Icy Wind increasing. A lot of people are going for Icy Wind rather than Tailwind, which is fine. It makes sense, but I'm not a huge fan. I think Icy Wind's good, but I don't know. At the same time, Snarl dropping down a little bit. And then let's get into some of these teams, right? We have Niles' team here. and we saw it in use, and it was fantastic. And yeah, we can go into a little bit more. So we saw the Choice Scarf, Urshifu Rapid Strike, just pretty standard, like nothing super special about this Pokemon. Ursaluna with the Flame Orb. Ghost Terra is pretty common on this thing. It does make it weaker to the knockoff here, but at the same time, it means it can't be faked out. So that's also really good. And it doesn't make it weak to any of the other weaknesses. Also fighting. We have the Grass Terra Incin. I'm more of a fan of just using the goggles, and then, you know, anything else here. Ghost is really good water, so I like that a little bit better, but that's fine. Grass is fine. Parting Shot, Knockoff, Flare Blitz, Fake Out, Citrus Berries to get that healing. We saw a lot of Citrus Berries on Incin over those goggles, but with the increase in Amoonguss, that's probably going to happen at the next event. I would assume that some Incins are going to start running either probably this Grass Terra again, or they're going to start running those goggles, or we might see some other Pokemon rocking those goggles going into those. Porygon 2, pretty standard here, Terra Blast, but Flying Terra, which we did not actually see coming out with the Terra Blast, helps deal with the Amoonguss, but I mean, Ice Beam kind of hits almost everything that Flying hits besides fighting types, so I don't know if I really like the Terra Flying, but I mean, obviously he won, so what do I know? Amoonguss, Rocky Helmet. I'm a big fan of Rocky Helmet. Ghost type is unique. I've never seen Ghost type on Amoonguss before, so I'm assuming a lot of people weren't ready for that. Does make it weaker to the Incineroar, but overall I think it's pretty decent. Stops it from being faked out, which is huge, and you can get those spores off. It does not, however, have the Pollen Puff. Instead, it does have that Sludge Bomb, who's going to be able to do some damage and just get out there. So we got the Rage Powder, the Spore, the Protect. Those are all pretty standard. Next, we have Flutter Mane with Booster Energy, and we get the Fairy Terra with Substitute. So we're not running the Dazzling Gleam on this one. Instead, we're running the Substitute. So both of the Flutter Manes in the finals were very unique. You know, they were both very unique, as we'll see here too. So yeah, see, we have Protect, Moonblast, Icy Wind, and Taunt. So no Dazzling Gleam, really showing maybe Dazzling Gleam isn't the call anymore. Maybe it is this, with of course that Fairy Terra still to get that Moonblast extra damage. We have Raging Bolt, Fairy Terra. We have the Calm Mind set with the Dragon Pulse and Dragon Claw. I don't really like this set because it does get walled by a couple of Pokemon, so I'm not a huge fan of the set, but each their own. We don't see Helping Hand over on the Hearth Flame, which is something I've never seen. I've never seen the Stomping Tantrum over that. I've sometimes seen that there's no Wood Hammer or Horn Leech for Stomping Tantrum, but it's usually either Follow Me or it's going to be that Sword Dance. So I really like that. Focus Sash Rapid Strike is a little bit different as well. We're used to seeing, you know, maybe the Mystic Water or that Choice Scarf, but we have it a little bit different here. Same moves though, same moves. Water Terror as well. Rillaboom with that Fire, that's how I like to run it too. Pretty standard set on there. Citrus Berry we see again, but with the Ghost Terra as well. So this thing can be spored, which makes it a little bit weaker into those matchups. And Parting Shot, Knockoff, Will-O-Wisp is a little different on that Will-O-Wisp and Fake Out. So yeah, it's really good, but we don't see a fire attack on it, so you're not going to get the Flare Blitz off of this thing, which is going to kind of limit its damage into certain matchups, maybe like the Rillaboom. Like after you get that first knockoff, like how you damaging the Rillaboom, you know, I guess the Will-O-Wisp. So I guess there are a way around it, but I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'd have to try it, but pretty cool team though. It's a standard team, but the sets aren't standard, right? So that sometimes could be what it takes to progress and, you know, make a really good team. So yeah, we talked about this team a little bit, and we see the top ranking Okidogi from Diego. Okidogi has Drain Punch, Gunk Shot, Knockoff, and Upper Hand. We saw a lot of the Assault Vest variations, not many of the Leftovers variations with the bulk up or anything. I don't think we saw any of those. I don't know how many there were in the tournament, but this seems to be the preferred strat at the moment. We had the Arcanine as well with the Choice Band. So this is just a really aggressive team overall. So we have the Wellspring, that's going to be our main defense with that Arcanine, who can also put out tons of damage. We got the Fake Out with the Rillaboom. No Incin on this team. So yeah, it's just I'm going hyper offense. You got to stop my damage output. If you can't, it's over. So, and the Chien-Pao is going to help with that. And then you got the Landorus as a special attacker to kind of provide support for the others here. And with that Earth Power Sludge Bomb and Substitute, which has been pretty common recently, that Substitute. So, and then we got the Dondozo team here. This is a pretty standardish team that people have been running recently. The Dondozo with Gouging Fire. You know, you can go for the Yawns, you can go for the Howls, you can get some damage off. They're all physical attackers except Goldango, who is a huge attacker himself. So you got that. We've got a Rain team getting 10th here with Pelipper and the Archaludon. It also had the Landorus, which is going to take advantage of that Rain as well. And actually 11th as well, we see a Rain team with Archaludon. So Archaludon actually coming back a little bit because this Pokemon has been pretty terrible. This is an older team. This was like early Reg F. We saw a lot of this team. But we saw it mostly with the Dark Urshifu. So this one's actually running that Water Urshifu, probably with Rain Dance. Actually, let's check. It does have the Rain Dance, which is going to help with that. And it's also going to help you with that Terra Water. That Terra Blast, and do some stuff there. And of course, you have the Expanding Force Tracking Cutter, so this kind of deals with a lot of things. And then you got the Regidrago with the Tailwind, or the Trick Room that can really output a ton of damage, not into anything not named Fluttermane. Wolf Glick, like I said, his team very standard. Brian bringing, let's see what he was running actually. Spore, Follow Me, Fake Out, and Decorate on the Smeargle. So, I mean, that makes sense. Those all make sense to me. I think maybe after you might be good too. Then you can pair it with the Torkoal in some situations. A lot of Psychic types, a lot of this stuff is kind of weak. Dragon type into the knockoff is what I was trying to say. Fire, Dragon, Fire. Fire. So a lot of the same types here. We have Grass Urshifu Unseen Fist. So I've never seen Grass on this thing. It is Choice Bandit, so it's just going to do a ton of damage and then just hopefully faint and while you get up the Trick Room. That's probably the goal of this team. If I was to guess, I have no idea, but I like seeing the Smeargle there. I've been calling for the Smeargle for a while. So big fan of that. We see another Rain Archaludon team here performing pretty well. This is that Baxcalibur team. Baxcalibur with the, regular Ogerpon and the Galarian Zapdos Choice Scarf. We have Focus Sash on the Ogerpon here. It has Follow Me still, Superpower, Ivy Cudgel, so it's just kind of playing the role as Cornerstone. Landorus, we see Iron Bundle, which doesn't have a water move. Big fan of that. Heatran with Safety Goggles and the Bug Terra type with the Heat Wave, Earth Power, Flash Cannon, and Protect. See Fire Terra. Thermal Exchange coming back in because for a little bit people were actually running the Ice Body. And Clear Amulet with Glaive Rush, Ice Crash, Ice Shard. This is the way I like to run it as well. I don't really like the multi-hit ones, and just not a big fan of it. I think this gives you a lot more range, in my opinion. But yeah, I kind of like this team. It's super, super aggressive, so you can lose just from like being outbulked. But yeah, Arash running the Clefairy, which did really well for him in his stream match. So yeah, there's a lot of really, really unique teams. As we can see, Juan here also running that Dondozo, but also given that Corviknight, all physical attackers on this team is crazy to me. That is crazy. Stefan Mott has been running this Clefairy for quite a while. This is a local player from where I am. So yeah, credit to Stefan for coming 24th. Was also on stream and did really well. This team was the one Timu's team that we saw. Crazy, crazy team. Alberto also running some Rain, but without Archaludon. So instead going for the Dragonite. I want to see what Dragonite they were running. They were just running the Extreme Speed normal one. The Aerial Ace, yeah. So this is pretty standard here. We see Weather Ball, Hurricane, Wide Guard. We'll probably be seeing a lot more of that Wide Guard coming up soon. Eduardo, he was on stream. Pretty standard team for Eduardo. Miguel, look at this team. What is this team? Okay. Choice Bandit, Mighty Cleave, of course. It just gives you oh, now you run Urshifu. Because you could run Urshifu with this thing, then you got 2 Urshifus. So, you know, that's always good. Primarina with Calm Mind. I hate fighting this Pokemon because I always end up losing to it. And then, of course, you got just the good instant Rillaboom core with the Ogerpon. Hearth Flame for more damage with the Sword Dance we see there. The Icy Wind, Flutter Mane. So, yeah, you just got a lot going on with this team. You got a lot that you have to deal with if you do face the team. But I feel like if you can just outbulk that team, you just kind of win. Diego running the Armarouge, which I'm a huge fan of. I was actually testing Armarouge. I really, really like it, actually. I think it was pretty good. James Beck falling the 34th. I said it was going to be James Beck versus Wolf in the finals, but unfortunately not. Also pretty standard team. So there's a lot of this standardish team that you can see running around. But there are a lot of unique teams. Like this one's completely unique. I haven't seen anything like that. But yeah, a lot of the bigger name players you're seeing, they're running pretty standardish teams. But then you see some of those names that maybe we haven't seen before, and they're running some unique stuff and placing very well. Some of these really niche Meta-Call teams. And just able to put up results. There are some big name players also running some very unique teams and placing really well too, so don't get me wrong. But yeah, a fantastic event. I really enjoyed watching the stream. The quality of the stream was really good this time around. They're doing a lot better with presentation and stuff like that, so credit to the Pokemon Company for that. But yeah, this has been a long video. I hope that you guys do enjoy the video, and if you did, make sure you thumbs it up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.